Not getting future calls at this nature. Thank you.
Hello?
All right.
Hey, what's going on? How's everybody doing? First, all praise goes to God. Definitely didn't plan to have any intro music this morning, but I'm definitely excited to be with you guys today. It's really an honor to be with you guys this Sunday. And before I go any further, I want to, give a special thank you to, Pastor and the First Lady, for allowing me this opportunity, to speak with you all today. Their heart for the ministry, their heart for people is a rarity. And, just give God all glory and praise for them. So definitely let's take a time to, honor the man and woman of God for their faithfulness to the ministry. I also want to acknowledge, different mothers, as Mother's Day is fast approaching, give honor where honors due to the queens who have supported us through everything we've gone through, and how it's always the women who are here for us in our tomb-like crisis. So, thank you for that. Before I get into, what I'm speaking to you guys about today, I really just want to impress the fact that, this moment is more than a moment for me. This moment has taken a lifetime for me to get to where I am today. I was incarcerated at 17 years old and have been incarcerated for 15 years. And the irony is, I was a young boy running around the same streets right outside where this very church is. I grew up in the same community, frequently walking past the same church building regularly on my way to the corner store. The sad thing is that I not only walk past this church or churches like it, but in many ways, these churches walk past me. With so much happening in the world around us, it's easy to get caught up and consumed with what's going on in our own personal lives that we forget to realize that life is happening to every single one of us. And it's sad because we move around in life with blinders up, not realizing the conditions of what others are going through. We walk past the sick and the suffering. We walk past the homeless and the hurting. We walk past the addicted and the abused, only to ignore the plights and the conditions that they're in, when we're called to intervene and step up and serve those who are the least of these. How many people have you walked past? How many people have you ignored? How many people have you acted like you didn't see, or you turned your nose up at, failing to remember that had it not been for the grace of God, it would have been you in that very same situation. 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 11 states it this way: "And such were some of you, but you were washed," that is to say, the Lord cleaned you up. "But you were sanctified," that is to say, that the Lord set you apart. "But you were justified," that is, that the Lord declared you righteous. So don't forget your starting point. While in this community in particular, and the community that I grew up in, there's churches on every block. Yet where is the church when the people are suffering? While people are running into the church to avoid the community, we're in the streets needing the church to reach us while we're in the community. We were young men running wild and reckless into the streets, getting into fights, altercations, shootings happening right outside the church. And no one from the church had enough love to reach us right where we're at. In large part, I personally believe that this is because most people who call themselves Christians see the church as merely a building. But the church is the people, not the building. We are the church. And wherever we go, we're called to be light. And so while people are dying in the streets, where is the church? We need the church to leave the building and reach the people who are in the streets suffering. The church isn't the building, but the people. So when will the church step out the building in order to reach the people? We must leave the comfort of the pulpit and the pews in order to reach those that others have neglected and marginalized. I found that in order to comfort someone in their crisis, I must be willing to be uncomfortable. Are you willing to be uncomfortable? I must be willing to get uncomfortable. Are you willing to get uncomfortable? I must be willing to do what others won't. in order to reach those who others can't. You know, in times like this, and this last year I understand has been unparalleled, but in times like this, we need more than a cultural shift. We need more than a community shift. What we need is a spiritual shift. But how can the spiritual shift take place when those who carry the Spirit of God are absent from this space? In order to be relevant in the community and to have a viable impact on the community, people of faith must show up for the community. While civic leaders, politicians, public servants, pastors, prophets, priests are guilty of failing to reflect the fear of God in their responsibilities, and social injustice prevails and holiness in everyday living is lacking, we must take it upon ourselves to be the salt and the light. We must take it upon ourselves to be the love that has been lost, the love that is missing, the missing ingredient to see true change in our community. We must be that. The Word of God says the fear of God is to hate evil. What is more evil than the systematized oppression of people? When we see these different conditions on the news every day, does this do something to our heart, or do we ignore these things only to say, well, at least it wasn't me? Or hopefully somebody intervenes. Woe to those who call good evil and evil good. You know, a gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man without trial. As we reflect on what we have gone through in our own individual lives, let us get out of our own way so we can reach people before they ever have a chance to go through what we have gone through. As the Word of God says, faith without works is dead, right? You know, walking by and ignoring the conditions of the community, how can we call ourselves Christians? Is that Christ-like? How can we walk past so much pain and suffering and do so little? To whom much is given, much is required. And for those who feel that they don't have much, I want to tell you this: little is much is the kingdom. I'm reminded of the account of the Good Samaritan out of Luke 10, verses 30 to 37, where it was the religious folk that walked past the suffering man left for dead, but it was the Samaritan, the rejected, the despised, the outcast. That was the one who showed up and showed true compassion. How soon we forget what it was like when we were the rejected, the despised, the outcast ourselves. How soon we forget what what we needed when we found ourselves in these conditions. Romans chapter 13, verse 10 says, love works no ill towards its neighbor. Therefore, love is the fulfillment of the law. So when we're turning the blind eye to these conditions and acting as if the things that are going on aren't, is that love? Like 1 John 3:18 says, let us not love in word, neither in tongue, but in deed and in truth. Let us not love merely by the doctrines we teach, but don't practice. Let's not love merely by what we profess with our mouths, but not with our lives. But let us love unapologetically, without hypocrisy, being unashamed of the gospel, knowing that by the grace of God we have been saved and we have been changed. And therefore, let us reach out to those who are still in the condition that we once were in. You know, let's not forget that such were some of us. Matthew 25 expresses that as we have done unto the least of these, we have done unto Christ. A measure of our spiritual condition in this life can be expressed through the love we show and the way we treat the hungry, the thirsty, the stranger, the naked, the sick, the prisoner. The prisoner. The first fruit of the Spirit listed is love. You see, the fruit of the Spirit is another way of saying that the evidence of the Spirit of God working in and through your life is love. The manifest expression of the Spirit is love. And yet, love is one of the things that are lacking most in the times that we live in. And I'm not talking about the stripped away rarity, the love that has been so perverted. I'm talking about the genuine, the agape love, the self-sacrificial love, the love that knows no bounds, the love that covers a multitude of sins, the love that was demonstrated on the cross. It is time that we put our faith in action. It is time to put our love in action. If not you, then who? If not now, then when? Like, when will we see a change in our hearts that align with the faith that we profess and see that impacting the lives of others? See, with the Filthy Rags Outreach, we're in prison making a difference, touching the community, even right where we are today. Well, we're calling on you to touch the community with us. It's time for healing to take place. It's time for hope to be declared. It's time for change in our community. And while we're behind these walls advocating and striving for these things, we can only do so much. And I believe by the grace of God, God will send messengers and ministers and servants who have a heart such as we do to reach those in the same condition that we came from. For such a time as this. For such a time as this, you have been perfectly positioned to serve, to help, and to show up for those who others have willfully neglected. I want to leave you with this. Do what you can with what you have, where you are. God's grace is sufficient for you. So use the grace given to you to reach out and touch a life other than your own. May glory be to God. Thank you. And may the Lord bless you and keep you. And may the grace of the Lord be with you all. God bless.